Our first 2024-2025 season preview is underway, and we are welcomed by my good friend, Mr. Mark Corderaro, also noted diehard Rangers fan. He will be hopping on with us today to chat all things 2024-2025 New York Rangers. So just to kind of give a brief overview before we toss it off to Mark, the team is largely still intact from last season. They were the best regular season team in the league last year, won the President's Trophy. They broke the franchise record for wins and points, one hell of a regular season. Obviously, we know what happened in the playoffs, but the majority of the team is coming back. A couple new faces, some minor subtractions, but overall, Mark, what's your feeling on the boys in blue going into this season?
First off, gentlemen, thank you for having me back. I believe this is, I don't know, I've lost count of the times I've been on, but always a pleasure. Um, it's just pretty simple, just run it back. I think that was just the main, I don't know, motto this summer, I guess, from Jerry's standpoint was, you're 2 games away and run it back. They got Riley Smith to plug in the first line. We'll see if that works. But besides that, the team is pretty practically the same.
What do you think are some of like the things that might need to slightly change this season for them to finally get over that hump? Is there something that stands out to you?
Uh, Not it's tough because the regular season they played so well, so there was no spunks or anything that I needed to improve. It's just the playoffs. I think guys got to show up in the playoffs. You can't go so hot and cold. That first line again, Mika and Kreider is too cold. Miko starts off very hot against the Caps, and then halfway through Carolina, and then all of a sudden it just stops. You need big game players, and they ran into a team that only had big game players. So besides that, you pray and hope Riley Smith's the answer in the first line, but you got to worry about the playoffs and performing there.
To me, this feels like one of the best teams I've seen in a while. Like looking at the team from last season and what they did in the playoffs, feels like one of the best teams I've seen in a while get nothing, like no runner up, no cup. I mean, this team to me was scary good through, first 2 rounds of the playoffs. Even in the third round, it's not like they imploded like entirely. Like you said, if there's one thing you could nitpick, I guess it's like consistency, a little bit of drop off from some of those star players. But I mean, yeah, I'm kind of with you, Mark. I feel like there's not much you can do other than just run it back and kind of hope to chalk last season up as like, well, it just wasn't our year, and we did everything pretty much right for the most part. Yeah.
Pretty much, yeah. And I think the addition of Riley Smith is almost like a deadline addition they would do regardless. I think that's typical. The move at the deadline is try to figure out someone who can play with Kreider and Mika. So them doing it, half a season early, maybe that helps them get more chemistry. I don't know, but it can't hurt. Um, Besides that, Truba's got to play better in the playoffs. It's obvious. Mika's got to show up the whole entire time. And you know what it is? Everyone's like, oh, it's the Rangers, this, Rangers, that. They ran into a better team. Florida was a better team. They were a well-built, oiled machine who's been to the Stanley Cup already. So, they were 2 games away, and I think you have to run it back. And if it doesn't go well this season, then you have some, bigger questions going into the offseason.
Yeah, I feel like that Florida team, and you touched on it, they were in the Stanley Cup final just the year prior. So it seemed like there was literally no way that they weren't gonna fuck that up, for lack of a better word. Um, Interesting point about Truba. What would you say specifically needs to improve with his game in the postseason? Is that just overall or maybe some decision making there?
Decision making first off, I feel like on defense he made some moves in the playoffs that were just like going for pucks that he didn't have, getting beat. And just you can't play that loose in the playoffs. You got to play tight, and he was not tight, especially against the Florida team. That they're a heavy team. They're gonna feel you out, and and he did not play tight. He played loose. He's got to play overall better. And it's not just him either. Everyone's bit bagging on Truba. Where's Mika? Kreider had scored a hat trick against Carolina. Then that was it. They become ghosts, and that's got to improve in order for them to go to the Stanley Cup and even win one at this point.
Got to ask about one guy, just got his little 1 year deal in the offseason, but Capo Caco, I know he's a maybe a controversial figure amongst Rangers fans. Some people want to keep him around and say he's still got promise, and then some people want him shipped out. What do you think he's gonna have happen to him this year?
I've never had a problem with Kako. I think his defensive metrics are above average to be on the third line. Listen, is he second overall pick? You'd want him to score 50 goals and kind of do what Lafreniere is doing and steadily improving. But he's a good two-way player. He can play on the PK. He can also play on the power play as well. Not too bent either way. I think a bigger question also is Ryan Lindgren with his deal and him only getting 1 year. I think that speaks volumes as to kind of what they think of his future.
Well, I don't have the stat in front of me. That guy's got to be up there with like most injuries of all time or something along those lines.
Yeah, and even in the playoffs, that was another guy who kind of, I think he just felt it almost. I feel like by the third round, he was just skating with cinder blocks around his ankles, and rightfully so, because that guy's been taking a beating from game one.
And I think that's just part of the salary cap cycle. I mean, not to compare it to the Caps, but they had a couple of those President's Trophy winning teams who didn't get anything done in the postseason. And credit to the Rangers, they got further than the Caps ever did in those scenarios. But it's just, I think it's one of those things where you need to learn how to lose before you learn how to win, if that makes sense.
Yeah, 100%. And I think, if the one positive way to look at it is stepping stones and, having that taste of it and knowing what it takes. And like I said, that Florida series could have went either way. It could have went either way. Florida's a very, very, very good team. If there was one team that they were going to lose to, it was that team. And, run it back, see how it goes.
While we're talking about defense a little bit, another guy you lose, Eric Gustafson, kind of an underrated player. I thought he played well in his Rangers tenure. Are you expecting Zach Jones to probably take that place, or what's your expectation there?
From the sound of it, it sounds like it's going to be Zach Jones and Trouba on that third line. Schneider going to bump up with Miller on the second, and then Lindgren and Fox in the first. Which Zach Jones deserves every opportunity this year to have that spot, and rightfully so. He played great when he filled in last year, especially being a healthy scratch for half the games and coming in and still producing, which is not easy. So he rightfully earned his spot. We'll see what he does.
He's got legs for days too. I mean, that kid can flat out skate.
He's got eyes too. He's not a Fox. Like Fox is one of one. But if there's anyone similar to him and how he runs the point, it's Zach Jones.
All right, so Rangers largely intact, run it back. We've said it 5 different ways. What do we really think is going to happen with this team? I mean, on paper, I will say, especially with some of the departures in Carolina, they might be the best team in the East on paper. I mean, I know it's cup or bust, but what do you realistically think is going to happen this year?
I think it's going to be the Rangers and Florida again in the semis to go to the Cup.
Ooh.
I think it'll be a rematch. I just don't. The only team I can see somewhat giving problems is the Devils. Otherwise, I don't think Boston matches up well with either team. Tampa, you never know. Those guys are just always in the closet, ready to come out. I don't know. I just don't see anyone beating the Rangers or the Panthers unless they play each other in the second round somehow or the first round. But if that's my guess.
Mac, Nick, what do you guys think?
Yeah, I don't hate that prediction. I mean, I do because I'm not a Rangers fan, but realistically, I think that definitely sounds about on par. I expect this team to be right there where they were at last year, and third round at least, maybe all the way to the Cup final this year.
Yeah, I think when you look up and down that team's lineup and specifically at who's in net, any team in the NHL would kill to have an anchor like that for your team going into a deep playoff run. And I think we can all sort of, we'll have to wait and see, obviously, but last year was a fluke for the Devils. Let's be real. Some weird shit happened and they just shit the bed. Now they've got goaltending. They added some great pieces. I would definitely be concerned about them.
Yeah, 100%. Like I said, I think they're a team you have to watch out for. Boston is always sneakily good every year. Meanwhile, before every year, you're like, this team's going to go the opposite way. They're good. Tampa's good. You always got players, and you don't know when they're going to heat up at certain times. But if I had to put my money on it, I'd say it's Florida and the Rangers again.
It's crazy as I'm looking at the East. Like it's weird now that Carolina maybe a little weaker than historically speaking, and you look at Tampa. Who knows what's going to happen? Like Stamkos leaving is such a giant change. Like who knows how that turns out? Toronto, whatever. Boston, I mean, yeah, they got some good pieces, but it really does feel like it's Florida and the Rangers is like that 1A, 1B who's going to go after it.
Yeah, and it's just like you said, the Devils can't. No other team really has the goaltending to kind of go on a crazy run. I guess Tampa, if you're going to give me one who can just go on a streaky run out of nowhere, but I don't know. I just don't see Devils are going to be a player, Florida, Rangers, and then I think it's a crapshoot below that.
Well,
Carolina, I was never even big on Carolina even last year. They're such an analytically over-driven team in every way possible, whether it's just in hockey in general, sports betting. They are so driven. I don't know how. They just fire shots in net. None of them are good. They run into a good goalie. It's over very quick. I'm so tired of that team, and thank God they're disbanding. And if they want to play again, we'll go again for the fifth time, and we'll bounce them again. Tired of
I'm
that.
with you, Mark. So I'm not going to say anything else about them because I'm going to make all you viewers tune into our Carolina preview. But I think they're super overrated.
So let me ask you this, and this has nothing to do with the Hurricanes or the Rangers, but do the New York Islanders make the playoffs this year? Yes or no?
No,
I agree.
no.
I could see it.
I'm gonna go through the list real quick. I just want to see who even.
The Atlantic teams are all the
You know
good
who it
ones.
is?
I hate to say it.
I'll tell you who's going to replace him this year without even look. It's going to be Detroit.
Yeah.
I think
would
Detroit. I think Detroit. It's just going to be a flop.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. Some people are bullish on Montreal even now. Like they got some young pieces. They've been signing some names. Line A coming over there. Who knows? I don't
Yeah,
know.
I think
No
Detroit.
goaltending though.
No goaltending, which is tough, but you could argue Detroit might not either. But regardless, all right, Mark. So it's cup or bust. Are the New York Rangers going to win the Stanley Cup this year? Let's hear it.
Yeah, and I certainly hope so. we're throwing Hail Marys at this point, hoping one sticks. But like you said, last year was the best shot to win, and this is the best shot to win as well.
Let's
So,
get the earliest Conn Smythe prediction on the planet too. When they hoist the Stanley Cup, which I hope they don't. Who takes home the Conn
there's
Smythe?
one answer, and because it's the only way they're going to win, it's Igor.
Nice.
Yeah, I would agree with
There's only
that.
one answer.
Yeah.
Who they playing?
Ooh. I'll go Rangers Vancouver.
Okay.
Ooh, that would be a
Little
good one.
94 rematch.
Yep.
I love that. I love
Yep.
that. Well, Mark, we appreciate you joining us. Good luck this season. Not really, but kind of, I guess. Should be a fun year, and I'm sure we'll have you back on the show sometime this year.
Yep. Thank you guys for having me, Harrison. I'll see you on opening night, October 10th.
There you go. Amen.